Welcome in to the Player's Perspective Uncensored podcast. We have a true legend with us today, man. We got a McDonald's All-American. We got a Mr. Basketball. We got a philanthropist. We got a coach. We got an NBA legend. You name it, all the accolades fit, man. We got Winston Bennett in the house, a fellow Bulldog Mail
Yes,
alumni.
sir.
Welcome to the podcast, brother.
Man, thank you so much, man. I'm honored to be here with you. And man, I need to take you with me everywhere with an introduction like that. My God. That's really good.
Oh, man. Oh, man. So, man, let me ask you this. We'll jump right into the podcast. When you were younger, you were coming up, who was somebody that you modeled your game after? Like for me coming up, I wanted to play like Ray Allen. Ray Allen was my favorite player coming up. That's
Yeah.
why I wore 34. I just loved his game. Who was somebody you modeled your game after when you were coming up?
Yeah, it was local guys. Daryl Griffith being number one. He was a mentor. He was, a guy that I could look to that was right here locally, went to Male High School. I wanted to follow in his footsteps. Now, obviously, my game didn't translate like his game, but there was another guy that played with him named Bobby Turner that I could see myself being like him because Bobby would play relentlessly. He would offensive rebound the ball. You couldn't stop him inside. He was getting 3-point plays before there was a 3-point line. He was getting it inside, getting you up, going into you, making you foul him, and scoring the basket and going to the line. So that's probably really who I tried to pattern my game after most. There's also my cousin, and a lot of people don't know he's my cousin, and that was Wesley Cox, who passed away, a number of months ago. Strong, relentless. It must be something that's in the family.
So
Yeah,
coming out of Mail, man, you were 1983. You were Mr. Basketball. You were McDonald's All-American, Parade All-American. I didn't even know you were MVP of the McDonald's All-American game.
yeah,
When you look back, what does that mean to you, especially as you have kids, families, grandkids, when
yeah.
you have that legacy, what does it mean for you to be able to have that conversation and tell that story about, being the MVP of the McDonald's All-American game, being Mr. Basketball coming out of Mail?
Yeah. Man, I'm gonna tell you, all honor to God, in all respects, because when I look back on it, there were so many more guys more talented than me. I really hung my hat on work ethic, just trying to outwork everyone. I think the other guy that was in that game, there was a lot of them, but most notably was Dwayne Pearl Washington. Back during that time, everybody knew him because of his heroics and handling the ball and serving up people on a platter. I mean, he was just a dynamic player. And there was others, Dallas Comagese, and I can name others that was in that game. For whatever reason, it was my night to shine. All credit to my teammates during that time, finding me being hot that night. There's a lot of dynamics, as you know, that goes into you being an MVP. Really, the MVP is the team. You just happen to have the light shine on you for that night.
Nice, nice. Also, Kenny Smith, that we
Yeah,
see on
Kenny Smith.
TNT with North
Absolutely.
Carolina. He was in that game. Tommy Amaker,
That's right.
coach at coach at Harvard, I want to say.
Yep, coached at Harvard. That's
Yeah, coach
correct.
at Harvard. They were in that game as well, man. So it was pretty cool feat, man. I know you'd be humble about it, but and that's definitely something to hang your hat on. As somebody who was coming through Mail, and I walked through, and you always hear my dad talk about you guys, and I kind of want to chase you guys' footsteps and wanted to emulate that as well, man. So, it's a great honor to have that legacy bestowed upon you, man. So
Yeah,
one thing I also want to ask you, because you touched on it a little bit earlier, Wesley Cox, Daryl Griffith, there were so many greats before you that came through the Mail pipeline that went to U of L.
mhm.
What made you choose the route and go to University of Kentucky? Because being a Parade McDonald's All-American, you could have had your choice of anywhere you wanted to go. What made you choose to go to UK?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that I get asked often, because how do you leave Louisville when you got one of the greatest teams in college basketball? How do you leave there and go down the road about 65, 70 miles? The most pertinent thing for me was that I was an only child. I didn't have sisters and brothers. And I felt like I needed to get out of the city if I was going to grow to where I wanted to get to. Because sometimes staying at home, it could either be a benefit or it can be a curse. And I didn't want it to be a curse to me. Not that it would have been, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't. And during that time, of course, we were still dealing with a lot of prejudicial issues in a lot of places in America, as we are today. And it was very uncommon to actually choose Kentucky over Louisville during that time. But my parents were so open, they didn't have a prejudiced bone in their body. And when Coach Joe B. Hall and, his able-bodied assistant, Leonard Hamilton, started recruiting me, my parents said, go check it out, regardless of what, anybody may say around here in the minority community, you go check it out, you make the determination yourself. And then, wherever the tree lies, that's where it's gonna be. And that's what I did. So when I did that, I went down there, man, and I saw the Wildcat Lodge. I never seen a king size bed in my life. You know what I'm saying? Golden
Right, right,
railings and a bathroom in your own room and big screen TVs back then. I said,
right.
"Oh my God." And, and it was more than just the material. Obviously, it was the coaching staff and it was the rest of the players because during that time, Charles Hurt was on the team, Bowie and Turpin, and all those guys had a role in recruiting me there. And I was just so impressed with the total program.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
And Louisville was thriving at that time too,
Louisville
man.
was
Just
thriving,
come
man.
off a championship, Final
Yeah.
Fours, McCray brothers. So
Yeah.
I'm sure it was a tough choice, man. It was, especially with the program booming and really thriving. Then he probably didn't he throw the bag at you, Winston, man?
Man, look, Coach Houston, Coach Houston, Coach Crum, Jerry Jones. I mean, all of those people, man, I have the fondest regard for. It was nothing that they did wrong in any respect as to why I didn't go to Louisville. One would say it was my loss because, as you stated, they was on such a high. Griffin them wanted in 80, Perv them wanted in 86.
Yeah,
So that 86 was during the time I was at Kentucky.
right.
Now, of course, we did go to the Final Four my freshman year in '84 and get beat by Georgetown. So we had a shot at it, but I never had a shot at it after my freshman year. And Louisville ends up winning it again in '86. And, I could easily be thinking, man, I could have been a part of that right there. And as
Right.
far as the bag, when you look at what these cats are doing today, oh, man, with this NIL stuff, our bag back then was like $50 handshakes in the bathroom or something like that. It wasn't like signing for 4 million. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
crazy.
At
Yeah,
least not for me. It may have been for Bowie and Turpin, but not for me.
the game has definitely evolved, man. It has
Yeah,
definitely evolved. So,
for
man,
sure.
talking about your time at UK, you won SEC championships. You had a great career there. You got a chance to play with Rex Chapman. You got a chance to play for Coach Eddie Sutton. Talk
Mhm.
about your time there, playing with Rex, playing for Coach Sutton, and then once you took the visit and you committed there. Talk about your experience playing at UK.
Wonderful experience, and I'll get to your question, but I'm gonna proceed it a little bit in that before Rex, before Kenny Sky, was Bowie and Turpin in that 1984 year in that Final Four against Georgetown, which was the year of the big man because Georgetown had Ewing, but Virginia had Ralph Sampson, Houston had Akeem. I mean, those were the four teams, and us. Those were the four teams in the Final Four. So we get matched up against Georgetown. Virginia and Houston go head to head, and then of course we ended up getting beat by Georgetown, and ended up being Houston and Georgetown in the final, and Georgetown ended up winning. So a tremendous experience. To leapfrog to your question about what the experience was with Coach Eddie Sutton and those guys, because at that time it was Joe B. Hall as
Oh,
my first 2 years of coaching, and then Eddie Sutton my second 2 years. Wonderful coach. Um, two coaches that stamped their tradition on discipline, hard work, relentlessness, all those things. But I had such a wonderful experience, as you mentioned, because I played with great guys. Kenny Skywalker, Rex Chapman, James Blackman. I mean, I could go on and on and on. They were just great character people as well as tremendous basketball players. So that made it a life enriching experience for me.
nice,
Yeah.
nice. So
Yeah.
coming out of there, man, 1988. you get drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers, but you don't play in the NBA right away. You
Right.
play overseas a little bit. You
Yep.
played in the CBA. Talk about what went into that after
Yeah.
getting drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, that's an awesome question there as well. Before getting drafted, number one, my senior year of Kentucky, we were in practice. Ed Daviner goes to the hole. That was our point guard. Throws up the ball. Of course, I'm noted for rebounding and offensive rebounding. I go up and get the offensive rebound and turn around, and one of my teammates falls in the side of my knee, tearing my
Mm,
ACL.
mm,
That was my senior year. So back then, I had the ability to get a medical red shirt, was able to medical red shirt, come back, rehab the leg, and then get drafted in the third round, 64th pick when I was projected to be at least, no further than the second round and possibly a first round before the knee injury.
mhm.
Okay. And then once the knee injury happened, Cleveland signs me, but they got everybody under contract. So I go into camp, have a great camp, but they got everybody signed.
Right.
So that's when I decided to go ahead, go overseas. I played in Italy, a team called Tirrema, which was in northern Italy. Had a great experience over there. Came back that summer, went back to the Cavaliers camp, had another great camp, and that's when they signed me.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. So once you got to the NBA, you came back from playing overseas, you played in the CBA. Now you're with your Cavs in your second year out of college. Talk to me about your experience.
Mm,
Finally making it to the NBA, being in the NBA roster, playing with Mark Price, playing with Larry Nance, playing with Brad Daugherty, like, all these guys that you
yeah.
kind of, fellowship with, man, and have been playing against all this time. Now you're on the NBA team. What's it like to finally have that moment of arriving to the NBA?
Man, what a dream come true, man. It's what every kid hopes and dream of. If they're any type of athlete at all, you want to get to the precipice, the highest height that you can get to. And the NBA for a basketball player, that was it, man. And it takes my mind back to when I was a kid and my dad would roll up two socks. He would lay in the bed and he would shoot it over a door. And I would just try to jump and block the socks. And for all my career, man, I was noted as a defensive player and a rebounder. Well, it started from blocking socks at 6 and 8 years old when dad used to shoot,
Right,
shoot
right,
those
right,
socks
right,
over the
right.
door. But that experience in the NBA, man, I don't have words for it because it's the culmination of so much hard work, as you know. You start playing this game at 6, 7, 8 years old, and you get a vision or a dream in your mind that you want to get to the height. One of the players I didn't mention because we didn't have the NBA here in Kentucky, but we did have the ABA when I was growing up, and we had the Kentucky Colonels. So I was used to watching artists Gilmore, Rick Mount, Louis Dampier, The Horse, Dan Issel. I was used to watching those guys and predicating again, trying to predicate my game off of one of those guys. But they also had a guy in that league named Dr. J, Julius Irving. My God. And that was the guy, man, that got me excited. I couldn't play like him. I couldn't jump like him, but I wanted to be him. He was
Right.
Michael Jordan before there was a Michael Jordan. If Jordan had an interview, he'd have to say that he was so immersed, probably with a guy named Dr. J. Man, so that's the thing that got my juices running. I wanted to play ball. I wanted to be in the NBA. And to get to your question, man, playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers, like you said, playing with Brad Daugherty, Larry Nance, Hot Rod Williams, all those guys, man, it was just a dream come true.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
So what was your welcome to the NBA moment, man, that made you realize
Woo!
like, oh man, like, yeah, this I'm
Man,
with
my
the big
welcome,
boys now. What was your welcome
man,
to the NBA moment?
man. I had many welcomes to the NBA moments, but here is the creme de la creme. We're in the locker room one day, and Coach Wilkins goes up to the board. That was my coach, one of the 50 greatest, Lenny Wilkins.
Hmm.
And we're playing this team in black and red. And he says, he begins to put the assignments on the board, and he says, Brad Daugherty, I want you to guard this guy, Bill Cartwright. Larry Nance, I want you to guard this guy, Horace Grant. Craig Elo, I want you to guard this guy, Scottie Pippen. And in my mind, my hand went up, and I'm like, Coach, hold on now. I'm the small
I'm
forward.
the three. I need
Yeah,
to guard
Pippen's
Scotty.
playing the small forward. That's a match. We should be guarding one another. And he says, Mark Price, you guard BJ Armstrong. And then I knew there's only one guy left to guard. And he said it. He said it. He said, Winston Bennett, you guard Michael Jordan. Man, I about fell out on the floor and fainted. You know what I'm saying? But to make a long story short, man, we get into the game, and Mike was just a great man. I mean, he's shaking everybody's hand, dapping everybody up, making you feel comfortable. And we get into the game. First play of the game, it goes to Jordan. Well, he sees he got a first-year player on him. He gonna get 100. I mean, he's looking at me. He's got saliva coming all off his tongue and whatnot. So it goes from Pippen to Jordan over to BJ back out to Jordan. You know what he does? He waggles in the post and fades. I go up as high as I can. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking I'm 6'8" trying to block the socks when Dad was shooting them socks over the door. I go up as high as I can. Well, he missed the shot. Brad Daugherty gets the rebound, outlets at the Price. I'm streaking down the right lane. I like that little 8 to 10-foot bank shot. Hit me with a shot, hit me with a pass. I went up, banked it. Good. Well, now I got confidence. So for the first quarter, Mike gets like 2 points. Second quarter, he gets another 2. So I done held the greatest player in the world during my time to 4 points and a half. Well, I'm going into halftime. We going into halftime up 10 on the Bulls. Man, we going in like we just won the championship. So to cut it short, we come out the second half. I'm on a high. Man, I got you locked up. I'm going to be the next guy on the Wheaties box. I'm going to be on the Gatorade commercial because you ain't doing nothing. This cat comes out and gets 65 points in the second half, man. Scores 69 for the game. The highest he's ever scored in his career. It was on us.
Oh.
That was my moment.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That is something, man. The 1991, 1992. I think that was your third year
Yeah.
playing with the Cavs. Man, you guys had an awesome team.
Yeah.
You finished high in the regular season. You guys make it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
And you match up with the Bulls. Talk to me about that year, what that meant like, and did the famous shot over Elo, was that like a ghost in the locker room?
Yeah.
Because it seemed like you guys kind of matched up with the Bulls every year in the playoffs, but this time it was for a chance to go to the championship. Talk to me about that year, that team, and what that was like.
Yeah, unbelievable year. First of all, what a great honor, to get that far. Obviously you want to continue to go on and hopefully have a chance to play for the Larry O'Brien Trophy, but it wasn't to be. But to have an opportunity to play against that team, that guy in the Eastern Conference Finals, man, I mean, just nothing like it. Nothing like it, really. Um, when you do all you can do, man, that's all you can do. And Elo did all he could do. He jumped as
Right.
high as he could. He tried to stay in front of him as best as he could. And we just came up short, man. He's an out of this world athlete. Because if you see this shot, you can see he just kind of hung in the air till Elo went down and then he shot it, all while being in the air. And it was like, this is something I do every day. This ain't nothing to me. That was kind of his attitude.
Right. Right.
Just unbelievable.
So when I think about that time when you played, for me, that was kind of like the golden era of the NBA. I mean, because you came in, toward the end of the 80s, that was dominated by the Celtics and the Lakers, but you had Bird, you had Magic, you had Mike that was about to start emerging. You had Barkley, you had Malone, you had Patrick Ewing. Like, man, you had all of these guys that really kind of took the NBA to another level, right?
Yep.
What was it like just playing against those guys night in and night out? You talked about your experience playing against Mike. For me, Mike's the greatest ever. I mean, you can make a case for LeBron. I think he had his opportunities, but Mike's still the greatest for me. But so many other greats when you think about that 1992 dream team that you played against, man. Just talk about that era and just night in and night out playing against some of the all-time greats in that time of basketball. I think was the greatest time of the NBA.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. And I have to pinch myself when I go back and think of the people that I had to match up against on a nightly basis, and you mentioned most of them. One night I would have to guard Bernard King. The next night I would have to guard Dominique. The next night I'll have to guard Charles Barkley. The next night, I mean, it would be Kiki Vandeweghe. The next night, I mean, it would be Purvis Short. The next night, it would be Alex English. The next, I mean, just on and on and on. It would be Magic. It would be Worthy. I mean, there was no end to it. Since I was considered a defensive player, the coach was going to put me on the opposite team's best player. You're never going to stop those guys. You just hope that you're able to, lasso them a little bit so they don't get 100 on you. You know what I'm saying? So it was unbelievable experience when I think back on my career, and it was a short career because when you think about it, when you play, you want longevity. But it was unfortunate for me. I tore my knee in the last year at Kentucky. And then the year you talking about, the third year, I tore it again. And I was trying to make a comeback, and I got traded to the Miami Heat, was trying to make a comeback and tore it again. And I said, that was it. I mean, obviously my body's not built for this. It's not taking this too well. But to answer your question, man, I was like a kid in a candy store pinching myself like, are you for real? I mean, I'm going up against these cats every night like this? Are you for real? It was, man, I praise God, man, for my experiences, man, because I can't trade it in. And you know what? I don't think I've ever had a person ask me, well, how many years did you play? All they asked was, man, I remember you playing against Jordan, or I remember you playing against Barkley or Bird, or you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Uh, when you in this fraternity of basketball or football or baseball, it's like you, man, in the great career you had at U of L, and you went on and played, a long time overseas, and everything that you've done, it don't matter where you played. It's the fact that you played, and we in this same fraternity, which means we brothers. I don't care where you played, because I know what you went through. We both went through the same thing, maybe different time periods, but had
Hmm.
to climb the same mountains. And for that, I respect you for it. You know what I'm saying?
Appreciate it, man. I
But
appreciate it.
real, man, that's the real deal.
So you touched on it a little bit there. Obviously, you retired early because you just the injury started to mount, and you know what? It's
Yep.
just my body's just not built for it. It's time to move on to something else. And so you went
Yeah.
into coaching. So
Yeah.
you went back, you coached at UK under Coach Rick Pitino.
Yeah.
Talk about what it was like coaching with Coach Pitino. Obviously, I know what it's like to play for him, but talk about what it's like to, coach with him when you went with him to UK. You also went
Yeah.
with him to the Celtics. What's it like being under coach? And I'll tell you what I think from a player's perspective, what he thought, what some of our coaches went through, and see if it matches up, which I'm
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
does. But talk
Well,
about your personal experience, working under Coach Pitino as an assistant
well,
coach.
we doing it for your listeners because me and you know there's no difference from being a coach and being a player for him. He don't look at it no different. You know what I'm
Facts.
saying?
Facts.
He's a Tasmanian devil. I don't care if you're a player or a coach. He's coming at you and coming at you hard. We would have to be there as coaches at 6 a.m. And
Hmm.
if you got there at 6 a.m., he would fire you because he said, you're late. Coach, you said I had to be here at 6 a.m. Well, 6 a.m. means 5:45. So you
Exactly.
late. My God, you
Exactly.
fired. So I heard that countless of times. So we would play ball, from about 6 a.m. to, I don't know, maybe 7. And then the guys would come in for individual instruction, from 7 on up till, whenever they didn't have classes to noon. Then we had practice at about 2:45 to 3 to about 6. I mean, it didn't stop. Then we as coaches have film breakdown after that. So you didn't get home, man, 10, 11 o'clock maybe. But the thing about him, man, he was so relentless. He never stopped. Even with him, he's on the treadmill, he's on the Stairmaster, he's flying and going giving speeches to Fortune 500 companies and getting back for practice, calling us on the phone as coaches. Hey, did you know Anthony Epps just got in a fight at a club? What y'all doing back there? I mean, this cat had intel, man, like no other. He was off the chain.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, it was surprising to me. Like he always got on us, chewed us out, but it really opened my eyes when he talked to the assistant coaches that we have the same way he talked to us. I'm like, man,
Same way.
these are grown men that he's talking to, just like
Exactly.
us. But they were young too, man. We had a young Kevin Willard just took the head coaching job at Villanova.
Yep.
Young Mick Cronin at UCLA. We had Vince Taylor. Even had Reggie Theus,
Right.
Scott Davenport, that was
Yep.
coach over at Bellarmine.
Yep.
Had some great coaches, man. And I think his philosophy, his work ethic was the main thing that really poured into a lot of guys. And I always tell people, like, man, it was an adjustment for me, man. Like, me and coach
Yeah.
didn't always see eye to eye. Everybody
Right.
wants me to tell them this fairy tale story, like we were
No.
always the best of friends. I'm like, me and him are great now, but when we first
Yeah.
started, man, it was rough there for a
Yeah.
minute, man.
Yeah.
It was real rough. But like, I think we really had to get to an understanding of knowing each other and really how to understand each other. Obviously, me being the amateur, being the athlete, I have to do what he says. But I think
Right.
in order for him to really push me to the best abilities that I can, I think he learned with some of the assistant coaches that he had, because I had a great relationship with my assistant, especially Kevin Willard.
Mm-hmm.
He was, man, if it wasn't for him, I don't know if I would have made it.
Right.
He
Right.
is, I mean, that is my guy. Like, he knew when to push buttons and he knew when to bring me in and just talk to me. And I think, Coach Patino picked up on a lot of that, man. And as toward the end of my career, our relationship really progressed and our team took off and everything was well. But man, it was rough the first couple of years.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah, touch and go. No different than as a coach. Some days you want to come in and punch him out because I'm bigger, I'm stronger. What you gonna do? But because I grew up in a respectful home, it's not something that was an alternative.
Right,
So you
right,
had to
right,
listen, you had to submit, and you understand that okay, this is the head right here. You got to listen to the head, do what he says. You see his coaching tree. You can't argue with his success.
right.
The guy's very, very successful, so he must be doing something right. But I would say this: there's many different ways to skin a catfish. Back during the times that we came up, and particularly when I came up, it was a volatile way of coaching. He came out of that tree. We're in a different day now where kids, man, they don't take much. They don't take much at all. And you can lose them with all that volatility. I'm looking at Mark Pope now and the way he coaches. He is more of a positivity guy on all fronts, and that works for him.
Right.
For somebody else, they got a different philosophy of coaching, and that'll work for them. So everybody's different in the way they approach the game. There's many different ways of winning and getting to young people.
Yeah, I think you have to adapt in this age. I agree with you, man. Always just kind of finding that silver lining in
Yep,
everything, especially with
absolutely.
the opening of the transfer portal. I mean, great example. Look at Coach Patino.
Yeah.
Young kid, RJ Lewis, didn't have a great
Yes.
NCAA tournament game, and coach sat him down. Coach, like, if you're not playing well, you not have good body language,
Right.
doesn't matter to coach. Coach is about teaching life lessons rather than winning games.
That's
And
exactly right.
I thought it was great. And so, like, the young man was the Big East Player of the Year. He was All-American. No telling what he was getting NIL. I'm sure he was getting a great deal NIL. He could have
Right.
came back, played for coach, had another chance at the national championship. But I think all just because of one moment, he said, you know what, I'm gonna go hit the transfer portal.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that part of the game is where I disagree with the portal.
Yeah.
Just because I think, I think going to college, man, and having that adversity and finding ways to overcome that adversity is kind of what makes you a man, right? What kind of turns you
Absolutely.
from that young man into that man, and having to figure it out, as Coach Willard would always tell me. He's like, man, you just got to figure it out. And I was
Yeah,
like,
I
all right,
figured out.
man. Yeah.
That's so true, man. Me and Coach Willard coached together with the Celtics. So I know him well, and he was my guy as well. And oftentimes when Coach would get under my skin, me and Willard would go into a little meeting. Look, man, you got to, you
Same
got to
with
go
me,
ahead
man.
and stick this thing out, man. You got to figure this thing out, man. You know how he is because Willard's dad and Coach was so close,
Hmm.
and that's how that whole relationship started. His dad, who coached at Holy Cross, coached at Western Kentucky, and so forth and so on. That kind of started the friendship, and then of course, Kevin was able to piggyback off of his dad's friendship with Coach, and that worked for him. And of course, we see what he's doing now. He's doing great things out there. So Coach, man, I love him to death. I love him to death, and he will always be a part of my family.
For sure. You were part of the '96 championship team. A lot of people
Yes.
consider that the best team ever. What made that group so special outside of the talent? We know you guys had 9 NBA players. I think it was 9.
Yeah.
But what made that team so special?
The chemistry. It gets back to how coach coaches. If you're not all in as a group with great team chemistry, he will break you as an individual. But if you collectively, as a group, supporting one another and holding each other up, you're going to have bountiful gains because he's so hard on you. You're going to catapult like you on a trampoline if you able to handle him pushing you down. It's like a military tactic. I'm going to break you down to build you back up. But you got to have the staying power to be there when the get up comes. I like what Les Brown says. He says, if you get knocked down, try to land on your back, because if you can see your way up, you can get up.
There you
And
go.
that's a team that was able to land on their back no matter what type of pressure, because coaches, we know it's going to put you in the fire, but you got to withstand that fiery smoke and come out as pure gold. And that's what that team did. When you talk about that team, the leader of that team, the most talented player on that team, Antoine Walker. And you talk about salt and vinegar, him and coach. Oh man, that was a daily battle, him and coach going at each other. But Antoine hung in there, did what coach said, and had a great career. But we had many players, like you said, on that team. We had Derek Anderson, we had Tony Delk, and Ron Mercer, and Walter McCarty, Mark Pope. I mean, it just went on and on.
Yeah. Too many guys, man. Too many guys.
Man.
Now, WB, man, it's the part of the podcast we call the barrel proof segment of rapid fire questions, man. Don't
Okay.
give it a lot of thought. Give me the first answer that comes to your head. We're going to roll with it.
Okay.
Your Mount Rushmore basketball players, 4 greatest basketball players of all time.
Oh man. Michael Jordan. I'm gonna go Kareem. I'm gonna go Magic. I'm gonna go Bird.
Yeah, I ain't mad at it. I ain't
Yeah.
mad at it. What's a talent that Winston Bennett has that the world doesn't know about?
Woo. I wouldn't call it a talent, but my love for God, my love for God's word.
Nice.
Yeah.
Funniest teammate you ever played with?
Brett Burrup. Yeah, Brett Burrup. He rest his soul, R.I.P. He died a number of years ago, but as a freshman, he was a couple of years older than me, and he was a practical joker. So one day, Brett cuts off this chicken's head and puts it under his roommate's bed. So the
What?
roommate comes in, man, and smells something kind of off. And he knows Brett is just a practical joker, man. And Brett says, I think it's your shoes, your socks under your bed is stinking, man. So he looks under his bed and sees a dead chicken and goes off on Brett, man. Just
Oh,
goes off on
man.
him. And he did a number of things like that. Just crazy stuff, man.
Wow. Favorite movie of all time?
Oh, man. Ten Commandments.
Ten Commandments. Okay.
Yep.
Toughest guy you had to guard in the league
Oh,
besides Michael
Jordan.
Jordan?
Oh, besides Michael Jordan, Barkley.
Barkley. Okay. Who would you consider in your time an underrated great player that doesn't get enough flowers?
Ooh, Bernard King. Bernard King. When he before he messed his knees up, man, he was the Michael Jordan. Not the athleticism of Michael Jordan, but you couldn't stop him. Once he got to his spots, man, Bernard was just unstoppable. Yeah, Bernard King.
If you had to pick a teammate to play 2-on-2 with, who would it be? Any
Rex,
team.
any team. I get two, okay, 2-on-2. So Rex Chapman.
You and somebody else.
Rex Chapman.
Rex Chapman. All right.
Yeah, because he's a bucket getter.
Last question. For young people who are trying to achieve success and have the same role that you have, possibly making it to the NBA, successful college career, what is your best advice to them?
Relentless work ethic. Well, I would first say, and I know everybody's different. Everybody may not believe in God, but I would first say keep God first. All right. And then after that, a relentless work ethic, a work ethic that never dies. I don't care what people tell you, because there's always going to be someone telling you that you can't make it. It's like hitting the lottery. You can't do it. No, in your mind, it's got to be, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. All I got to do is keep stacking days, keep putting my work in. And as long as I do that, it's going to come out in the wash. But what young people do is they get sidetracked with many different things. We live in a day and time, man, where you can get sidetracked with social media, with NIL, with a lot of different things. The big thing is you got to be a relentless work ethic, and you got to stay focused.
WB, way to
Yeah.
close out the podcast, brother.
Yes, sir, man.